I repented from my blasphemy of denying the Trinity. And so me and Zerk had a back and forth about the Trinity, not, at some point in the past.
I remember.
And
I hosted that debate.
Yeah. You did? Yeah, and I just want to let him know that, I've seen the truth. So.
Okay. What made you see the truth?
Reading the church fathers, reading the ancient Christians.
Well, first off, how you been? Like, you disappeared from the internet. We missed you. We got to speak a couple times over your absence. It's good to see you back. Are you going to make a full return?
Yeah, I'd say I've already made a full return. I would say so.
You're fully back. Man.
And I'm fully back. But if I can just close off that last point I was just making about the Trinity, so to any Christians watching that remember me from a point when I was denying the Trinity, I realize now that I was outside of the faith. You know what I'm saying? Like the Christians have always taught that Jesus is eternal. And so, I fully subscribe to the Trinity doctrine. And also to any Muslims watching, I put out a video, you know about it, right? I put out a video on my YouTube channel, basically, making an apology to the entire Muslim community and any other community I offended. That was the heart of what I was coming into that conversation with. I saw the mistakes I made in the past, and one of those mistakes was not approaching the discussion with the respect that it demanded. And so for any of the Muslims watching that their last impression of me was someone who was Islamophobic or anything like that, I just wanted to extend that to you. You can go and watch the full video on my channel if you want to actually hear what I said. And
okay. I didn't know you said anything Islamophobic.
That was the narrative online in a lot of Muslim communities, that I was an Islamophobe. In fact, I'm pretty sure someone made some kind of video coming against you, and they put me in the video as well. And he described me as an Islamophobe and a homophobe and all the phobes in the book, essentially.
Well, homophobe is alhamdulillah. This is nothing. I mean, we don't hate anybody, but if you're called that by somebody online, usually, in my experience, that's a sign of something good. Well, I'm joking, by the way, but I want to hear, what have you been up to? And I want to explain it from your words. I'm sure you said what you were doing when you were gone, but what has it been like since you left?
Bro, I got a job. I started working in construction. I was a full-time YouTuber for almost 8 years, and I needed to take a break. You feel me? And so I got a job in construction, and it's been very grounding, giving me a chance to take a step back from the internet, reflect and all of that.
Was it worthwhile? What was the biggest lesson you learned being away? Sometimes I envy that. Like when we got to speak a couple times when you were working construction, your beard grew out. You were you could tell that you were getting some sun. You were able to step away from the internet. My whole life, past couple of years, it's fully invested. I'm always in it's fully internet, even though I'm traveling, and that's why I do that, so I can still feel normal. I'm fully invested in this. And so for you to step away completely and work outside with your hands, that's it's like disappearing from that. What do you think you learned?
Yeah, well, one, this was my first real job. You know what I'm saying? I suppose we shouldn't belittle what we do on the internet too much to say it's not a real job. Just as good as anyone that this is. I mean, you're working 12, 16-hour days as a professional streamer.
The sun's coming up right now. It's like 5:40 a.m. here in Bosnia, and I'm gonna sleep 3 hours and continue work. Yeah, it is hard work. But to call it hard work online, people get upset because they're like, "Oh, I work 3 jobs and 10 shifts, and you're gonna say streaming's hard?" So I'm like, it's not hard. It's easy, and just
I would say, they're difficult in different ways. It's kind of like trying to compare what a woman does as a mother to what a man does as the protector, provider. They're both difficult in different ways. You know what I'm saying? It's not wise, I don't think, to try and say, oh, one is harder than the other. They're both important. So what other people do online, it's valuable, but if you want your electricity to keep going, if you want your water to keep flowing, then there are men out in the real world doing very hard labor to keep that going on a daily basis. And so it's, it was just nice to experience that. It was nice to experience that. And yeah, it gave me a chance to reflect and all that.
Why did you decide to come back?
Well, I just felt like it was time. I felt like it was time. In fact, I've been feeling like it was time for over a month, but I really wanted to be patient and make sure that it wasn't an impulsive move. I wanted to feel as if I'd really gotten what God wanted me to get out of it. And I think the evidence that it was time was how my return video was received. You know what I'm saying? People pretty much were happy to see me again, and they see the changes, they see the difference. And so, yeah.
Okay. And when you were a Unitarian, were you still Christian?
I would say no. I would say the ancient Christians always taught that to deny the Trinity is to commit blasphemy of God, because you're denying 1/3 of the God. You know, you're denying, it's the term Godhead. This is the way it's used. Whether or not that's the appropriate way to use that word, that's a different conversation. But yeah, you know, Jesus being very God from very God, you're denying the identity of God by denying the Son as God. And so that's just what the ancient Christians have always taught. And that's another thing. It's not necessarily the strongest or the biggest debate point that I've heard, but something that I do hear a lot in Muslim Christian debates is that you can't find the Trinity before the Council of Nicaea. Well, I can show you multiple quotes from church fathers from the 1st and 2nd century who said that Jesus was eternal, always with the Father. And so, though they may not have articulated the Trinity in modern Trinitarian lingo, the elements of the Trinity were clearly present from the very beginning of the church.
So when you rejected the Trinity, so you just rejected 1/3, so you believed in the Holy Spirit and the Father Almighty?
Well, it's more like the Bible teaches that Jesus is God, and I couldn't see that. Or, I was deceived. I didn't realize that that's what it was saying, and so the church fathers, there's a great book called, it's written by a man named Athanasius, and it's titled Against the Arians. This idea that Jesus is not God within Christianity, which birthed this concept of Unitarianism, was started by a heretic, a man named Arius. It's known as the Arian heresy. And so there's a church father, his name is Athanasius. And he, at the time of Arius, when he was teaching, he wrote a very well articulated discourse on why he's wrong. And so if anybody wants to explore why it is that the Trinity is true from the perspective of an ancient Christian teacher, I highly recommend they read that.
Okay. So would you consider Unitarian Christians like Jehovah's Witnesses not Christian?
Yes.
What are they? Just heresies?
They're heretics. Yeah, they're heretics. That's
the word, heretics? Okay.
Yeah, they believe in something other than what the universal church has always taught. Essentially, they've created their own religion that's a spin-off of Christianity. Okay, so are you Orthodox Christian? Are you Catholic? What are you? No, I don't identify with either Orthodox or Catholic at this point in time. My approach is to see what the earliest Christian teachers taught and just adopt that. And at this point in time, I do not see those teachings perfectly transferring over to what I see today in the modern Catholic and Eastern Orthodox faith. Now, I'm still studying, though, and so I view Catholics and Eastern Orthodox as brethren. I don't have any vendetta against them. I'm not in a position where I would want to debate them or teach them or anything like that. That's just where I'm at in my journey. But at this point in time, I do not see I don't see the, what's the word? Congruency between what the earliest church fathers taught and what they believe today. Okay. And so we had a couple conversations when you were gone about
how they prayed in early Christianity. I've seen some videos online too. You could see, I don't know if they're Eastern Orthodox, but they kind of pray the way we do as Muslims. That they go here, they go down, they put their head to the floor. Do you pray like that? Because it seems like early Christianity is very similar to Islam.
Yeah, you do see Jesus prostrating himself in prayer to the Father. But we also see in Christian tradition that we were taught not to bend our knee on Sundays, right, which is a day of fellowship in Christianity, because that was the day that symbolizes Christ's resurrection. And so in honor of that, we don't bend the knee on Sunday, but of course, Christians pray every day. And so what we see throughout Christian history is embracing praying, standing up, sitting down, prostrate on the floor. There's no set hard rule that you have to pray in a certain position, but it is encouraged to pray with your face to the floor. In most instances, it's a way of humbling yourself before God.
And there was a couple other things I don't want to expose like anything, but I remember we had a couple conversations, and you had noticed some similarities with early Christianity and Islam. I'm not sure if you want to talk about that. You remember?
Say that again.
When we were speaking, we called a couple times, and not just you were never Muslim, but I remember you called me and we were talking about some of the similarities between early Christianity and Islam and the way people dress, for example. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I would agree.
Do you still adopt some of those values?
Yeah, that's what the ancient Christians taught, right? In fact, if you do some research, you'll learn that Muslims, the way how Muslim women dress, they originally got that from how Christian and Jewish women dress. But unlike the Muslims, over time, Christian and Jewish culture have gotten away from these ancient traditions of how to dress, and even today, men like Tertullian, men like Clement of Alexandria, men like all these ancient Christians, they would look at the way how even Muslim women dress today with just the hijab, with their face exposed, and say that, they really should cover their entire face, like the women who wear the niqab. What's it called? A niqab?
Niqab.
Niqab, yeah, they would say that is the proper way for a woman to carry herself.
Right, and you could see they still, in Jewish and Christian culture, they still adopt that on marriage day, like when they get married. On the wedding day, they'll have their face covered and stuff like this. Or the nuns, for example, in Christianity, which is an example of the most pious women, they cover their hair the way a niqabi would, but it's only the most holy. So you can understand why Muslims believe that all women, so if there's an example like a nun of dressing the most pious and righteous way, that all women should adopt that.
What do Muslims believe in regards to Muslim women going away from the niqab and just wearing a hijab?
So niqab is not required.
The popular Muslim narrative on that.
So this is just what's factually true. Women are not required to wear niqab. It's a choice. And it's, some people could say it's like a more extreme version. So you don't need to cover your face. Hijab is required for women. And it's not just a head cover, it covers your whole body, and it's not supposed to show, your body, the tightness of your body, for example. Some Western Muslim people adopt it, and you could see like they wear jeans with it, or they wear a sweater and you could see your breasts like imprinted under the sweater, and then they cover their hair. That's like a Western adaptation of it, and that's not accurate. The Quran example, if you want to be pious and everything, hijab is from head to toe, and it covers your hair and everything. But you don't need to wear niqab; it's not required. But you can see a lot of women choose.
Is that what it says? Is that what it says in the Quran, that it's not required?
Yeah, niqab is not required. Hijab is.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and so people think that like, oh, look at these. A lot of people who demonize Islam, they look at niqabis and they like, look at this terrible thing that they have to do. They usually choose to do it. There's a lot of women that will start wearing hijab and decide that, okay, I want to take it a step further and I want to wear a niqab because I see that how empowered I am, actually. It's funny that feminists who dress naked in America, they think that they're empowered by showing off their body because my body, my choice, all this. When in fact, the niqabis and the hijabis, they're empowered because they're choosing to show how much they want to the world, and they're saving their beauty for their husband, or they're saving it and not sharing it with the entire world, which is the right way to be empowered.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. All of the pretty much everything that's come out of feminism has been horrible for society and has only led to the destruction of society. And so, yeah, you know, it would be better for women to cover themselves. I mean, can you think of give me some reasons why you think a woman covering her body would be better for society?
Because men are naturally, our gaze wanders everywhere. Like we have a concept in Islam called lower your gaze, because you're not supposed to be looking around, and that's the quickest way. There's zina of the eye. Zina is sex out of wedlock, and zina is, you know, touching a woman that's not your wife and all this. So there could be zina of the eyes if you're staring and like oogling a woman or looking at porn, and so if you're going to be looking around at a lot of naked women, your mind is going to wander and it's going to be filled with filth. Right, that's the quick porn, for example, is the quickest way that a soul can be corrupted, because you're filling your mind up with filth. So if women were covered, you're not gonna fall to that as easily, and it's gonna protect women. And it's a reminder too. Like when I've been to Mecca a few times since we last spoke on stream, and all the women are covered. It's like that's required. The women have to be covered, and you notice a difference in like where your mind goes. When I'm in Miami and women are like half naked everywhere, your mind is filled with whole different things. You're more likely to play music. You're more likely to be, you know, party situations. People are going to be drinking. But when women are covered, for example, like you want to open the door for them, or when you're in the elevator with them, you're standing far away. You're more respectful. You're not going to be mistreating them. It's a reminder that we should be protecting women and not using them for whatever selfish gains or lustful thoughts we might have.
Yeah, that's definitely, you know, protecting men from the temptation of lust is probably the most important part, or the most significant aspect of women covering themselves like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it helps both people.
Another reason that I can think of is it also makes the importance of having the baddie as a wife that disappears completely, right? How many dudes I'm sure you can think of guys that you've known who've maybe liked a girl, you know what I'm saying, linked a girl, but was ashamed to claim her as a girlfriend because he was concerned about what other men think. Oh, she's not bad enough. You feel me? She's not, you know, it completely takes that out of the equation as well. I think there are probably a lot of good women out there who are getting passed up on, who men would happily marry, but because of their vanity, their pride, their insecurities, they won't marry these women because of what other people might think. If all the women were covered up and it no longer became a contest between men about who has the prettiest wife, I think the world would also be a better place. And so that's another thing that I've thought of how that dress code would help society.
Yeah, that's a good point. The trophy wife concept does not exist anymore. You know, it's that has no value in society. But I didn't quite understand earlier. What was the specific doctrine or something? What made you go from Unitarian to Trinitarian specific? It was a book?
Yeah, so I was reading the writings of the ancient Christians. So, for instance, one of the criticisms that we see today coming from the Islam community, is how divided Christianity is. Well, they have to understand that is a product of the Protestant Reformation. You know, it wasn't like that for the grand majority of Christian history. For over 1,000 years, there was only one church. You know, there wasn't the church of this and the church of that and the church. There was only one church. And that church split into the East and the West. And then 600 years later, the Western Church, the Roman Catholic Church, had some defectors who separated and wanted to do their own thing. And they essentially, I suppose you could say, the precedent was set at the Great Schism. But that Protestant Reformation is what birthed this attitude of, oh, anybody can just pick up a Bible, read it, understand it. And if you disagree with what the guy beside you is saying, you have the authority to start your own church. And so that's why we see this proliferation of all these denominations. But if you return to the past, Christians were, you know, very united. Yeah, they may have had small disagreements here and there, but you can see that even within Islam, right? You can see small disagreements here and there on various things. And it was the same for Christianity at that point in time. But when it came to, the important doctrines, they were all unified. And it was like that for essentially 1,000 years. And, so in realizing that, really all of this just came from me studying the history of Christianity. And so I was like, okay, I want to go back to a time when the church was unified, when there was only one church, and to see what they taught and what they believed. And my logic behind that is, if there was ever a point in time where the church was not seeped in confusion and in division, it would have been in the very beginning, after the church was, started off by the disciples and the men that they appointed to come after them. And so that's what I've done, is gone back to their teachings, and it's provided a lot of clarity. They touch on pretty much every topic you can think of, everything from politics to raising children to, anything you can think of, the Trinity, all these things they explain very clearly.
What empire or what year was that where it was just the singular church?
So I would say that, there weren't multiple churches until the Great Schism of, I believe it was in 1054. That's when we see a clear distinction in two groups of people who call themselves Christians and then looked at the other group and said, we are not in communion or in fellowship with those guys over there. It would have been in 1054 when the East and the West split, the West being the Roman Catholic Church and the East being all the churches of the East. There was no Eastern church. It was like how when you think of the Roman Catholic Church, you think of one entity. The East maintained the original structure. It looked much more like what the original church looked like.
So what is the truth about the Council of Nicaea?
In what sense?
You're saying that a lot of people cite that specific council, and that's where the divide in Christianity started, and the divide of the doctrine of the Trinity.
The divide in Christianity didn't start at the Council of Nicaea. The only thing about the the Council of Nicaea was convened for the sake of tackling the Arian heresy. So remember earlier I mentioned this guy named Arius who came up with this teaching that Jesus is not eternally divine. Like he basically came up with this idea that Jesus was a created being, that God created him and that he didn't always exist. And this is essentially what Jehovah's Witnesses believe today. Like they practice a form of Arianism. So do most Unitarians. This was a heresy that I was sadly, deluded by for a little while there. And this council was convened primarily to, for the church to come together and give a unanimous decision where this was concerned. And the overwhelming majority was, of course, that Jesus is eternal, and anyone preaching this Arian stuff is a dangerous heretic that needs to be kicked out of the church.
What Arian stuff? They started adding the idea. Are you talking about like the Aryan race that was attributed to? No.
So it's called Arianism because of the man who came up with this doctrine. We don't see this doctrine present before this being taught by anyone who's regarded a Christian. We, as a Christian, we do see some fringe cult, like Jewish sects that played with this idea. They also denied these Jewish cults and whatever. They also denied that Jesus was born of a virgin. In Islam, you guys teach that Jesus was born of a virgin, right?
We believe. I don't know. I think we.
I'm pretty sure in Islam, you guys teach that Mary was a virgin when she. Obviously. So that is
not one. Hold on. Jesus in Islam.
Mary was virgin, and that's true, bro. That's true.
Yes, yes, you're right.
Didn't touch any man.
Well, I see a lot of Muslims saying Arians. Here's the thing. Muslims actually don't agree with Arians because Arians still taught that Jesus created all things. Arians still taught that Jesus was created first before all of creation, and then he created all things and then took on the form of a body. So all the Muslims saying W Arius, you guys don't agree with him at all. You don't think that Jesus created all things. You think he was just a man, a prophet that was very holy. So you really don't believe what Arians taught.
Okay, Arius, can you explain who is this? I've never heard this guy.
Arius. So yeah, so this was a guy who arose, I believe in, I'm not 100% sure, either the late 3rd century or the early 4th century. He started teaching this doctrine, and this is just how heresy works, bro. People make stuff up. People read the Bible. They do not subscribe to the teachings of the fathers of the faith that came before them. They come up with their own brand new ideas, their own new divine revelations, and then they start teaching it. And we see a lot of that going on today. Another perfect example of that, which was taught by the Arab guy that you had on, and and you call that. I know you guys were trying to paint it as a conversation, but I don't know if you realize this. When you were talking to Zerka, you called it a debate. You said after the debate. I even got it recorded. I was like, see, it was a debate. But anyway.
Yeah, but there's a difference between a healthy debate or a difference in opinion, stuff like this, and then attacking, going back and forth.
Yeah, but you could say it wasn't a nasty debate, but it was still a debate nonetheless. And so him thinking that it wasn't going to be a debate, that was just him not seeing what was obvious to everybody else. But, he was teaching some kind of once saved, always saved thing, like you don't need to practice righteousness and holiness to go to heaven. That's also a heresy that was invented, first by a man named Marcion. He's the most famous guy who is attributed to that belief, and he was a heretic. And then we see it pop up again in popularity with the Protestant Reformation. And so, these are how heresies work. A guy just make stuff up. They feel as if they have some kind of divine anointing by God, and God is revealing some kind of hidden truth to them that hasn't been revealed to the church previously. Why we attribute this belief to Arius is because we just cannot find any evidence in history of anyone else coming out of the church teaching this.
So who do you align with then? Now that you're returning to the internet, and I'm not asking this like in terms of like you need to pick a side, but it's like a lot of the that's just where a lot of the online Christians they end up doing. Like they declare I'm a Jehovah's Witness, I'm a American Catholic, I'm an Irish Catholic, I'm a Serb. I had a cameraman. He's like I'm a Serbian Orthodox, and it's like his identity. Where do you think you fit in? Who are you speaking to? Are you trying to convert other Christians who are misguided, or is it just people who are believing early Christians, or is it for everybody?
You kind of lagged out on me for a second there, but I think I caught the gist of your question.
Who's your content for?
I don't align with any of the mainstream denominations that we see today. I just align with the early church, what the church fathers taught. That's the position that I'm taking. I think it's the best way to safeguard against heresy. See, the word heresy, do you know what the word heresy means?
Somebody who rejects, like somebody, well, in Islam we say a kafir, like just somebody that you disavow, like somebody who's sinning and it doesn't believe in the core fundamentals of Christianity.
Okay, all right. So heresy just means a deviation from the original beliefs. And so logically, the earliest beliefs we can find, that is the only evidence we have of the Orthodox faith, the original belief. Orthodox just means right belief, right?
Right.
And so that's my approach, why I trust the early Christians. You see, like, you think of it like a tree, right? History is kind of like a tree. A branch can get rotten here or there, but the root has to be good. You see, if the root is bad, then the whole tree is bad. And so that's why I feel very secure going. I think it makes more sense to have unity with the Christians that study directly from the apostles than people today who are just, basically, choosing a denomination and saying, okay, this denomination is right. I'm gonna go to their seminary, their universities, and learn from these teachers. But you can't find their beliefs tracing all the way back to the very beginning. And so that's what I've done. There have been many Christians throughout history that have taken this approach. And I know a number of Christians today who have the exact same approach. But is there like a denomination with a logo and a name and all that? No. So, we just say that we.
So is your content for all Christians? Is it for Muslims? Who do you want to speak to?
I want to speak to you, bro.
Okay, that's fair to me. Is anything going to change with your content going forward? Like, is it the same mission? Is it what is going to be different in your absence compared to now?
Yeah, I just feel as if I'm a bit wiser in the way I articulate myself. I'm a little bit more careful with the words I use. I also am more mindful of both sides of an argument. It's not my desire to offend anybody. I think coming out of the worldly streamer culture, the attitude is kind of, stoke the flames, make drama, be contentious. That's what gets the views. That's what gets the clicks. And I carried that over into how I was trying to be an advocate for Christianity. And I realize now that that's not the proper way. Jesus says, or let me not say it's Jesus, but in the Bible it's taught, this might be one of the apostles. I think it's Jesus though. Oh no, I can look it up. Be at peace with all men, essentially, right? Where possible, be at peace. Yeah. So the verse is, okay, so this was Paul. It was in Romans. It says, if it be possible, as much as lieth in you, lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. And so whenever we have an opportunity to not stir up anger in somebody, we should take that route. In the book of Proverbs, it says, I believe it says something like a soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. So that's kind of my approach to how I do content now and how I interact with people in general.
What do you think about, what's your opinion on the content world from stepping away and coming back? I feel like it's, in a lot of ways it's the same, but there are a lot of new things as well, right?
And just so you know, I have a bunch of questions for you too. I don't know. I know you've been streaming for a while, but you had me waiting for a while. So I want to have a full conversation with you if you can bear it.
Okay. Well, I think I got some food. I think it's at the door.
Yeah, because we have a lot of things that we can talk about, bro.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. What do you think about the? Go ahead. Ask me. What do you got?
Okay. I have a list here of just things that I thought of while I was waiting for the stream. But here, let's turn it back on you. What do you think are the biggest criticisms that people have of you?
The biggest criticism.
Like, what are the biggest criticisms / misconceptions?
There's a lot. There's a lot of people talking talking about my name, and a lot of them are not really worth addressing. Biggest misconception. Probably I get fake Muslim quite a bit from the liberals. We were covering that earlier in the stream. I would say that the most legitimate criticisms are probably like that I am speaking about things that I'm not qualified to speak about. I would say that I get that from my community. Like right now, I'm feeling tired, and I was like thinking about. I know that Jesus is from the Virgin Mary, but I was thinking like, okay, what are the similarities of Christianity? The fact that he's the Messiah, and that we don't think that he died and resurrected, but that the body was swapped. So I was trying to remember that, and then as I'm answering that, people are saying, "Oh, you don't know this, and you're not qualified." So that's why I do a lot of time. Like that's why I'm in Bosnia right now, and I spent a lot of time learning about Islam and learning about the Quran and speaking to people that are more knowledgeable than me to get to that point.
Yeah, but do you see the wisdom, the legitimacy in that criticism, though.
Of
like,
course.
even if you don't think it perfectly applies to you, but you sound like you do acknowledge that it's always good to have someone who is more educated on the topic by your side, at the very least, when you're talking about it.
Maybe not always by my side, but I'm spending more time, and I've applied that criticism. For example, the reason that I destroyed Moist Critical in the debate is because I prepared. And so I want to go, I want to spend the rest of this year doing more reading and research and becoming more knowledgeable so that I'm well-versed in every topic that I speak about, especially because, you know, there are more people that are considering me like an authority on these subjects, like more than they were when you were still streaming.
Yeah. Have you ever had on like a legitimate Christian apologist?
What is a Christian apologist?
Somebody who is like, a seasoned scholar who's debated Islam, someone who has been doing this for a long time, not like a guy who just converted to the faith, not like a guy where the Muslim by your left knows the Bible better than him. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like in that interaction you had with that other guy the Muslim guy that was by your side, he was quoting verses with more accuracy than the other dude. And I'm just saying, have you had on a guy with that kind of, certification, let's say?
I don't need, what is the certification? Because when we bring on someone, they always say someone else, you're running from this guy. But yeah, sure. I mean, for example, we'll bring that guy on that we challenged for a debate earlier. Next stream.
Sam Shamoon?
Yeah, we'll do it. Like Muscle Mancer says he wants to do it, so we'll set it up.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Maybe I could reach out to Sam and see if he wants to do that. But if not, I know a couple of guys who are proper seasoned debaters. I'm sure you
say that, but there's going to be difference of opinion. A lot of people are going to say, like, why is Sam the guy, an apologist or whatever? Why is he a scholar and not others?
No, I'm just saying Sam is just as legit. I'm just saying, I don't know if you already have an avenue to contact Sam, and I don't know Sam that well, but I do know other guys, fairly well. I have a stronger connection with them that I do think would happily enter into a discourse with one of you guys.
Yes, there is the guy. And I remember it. I was with Sheikh Uthman, and Gideon put out an open invitation to a debate with him and his pastor. They said, I'll debate any Muslim.
That guy doesn't.
You see what I'm saying?
That's not legit, bro.
Okay. Who's the criteria? Okay, but here's my problem.
He has to be a guy with pedigree in the field of debating Muslims.
Sure.
That dude, was probably his first time ever debating a Muslim.
But here's the thing. We didn't even debate. They put out an open invitation to debate a Muslim on the Quran.
Yeah.
And then we accepted. And then they didn't do it. And then the pastor said, "Oh, he's busy writing his book." And then now I don't even know if he's Gideon's pastor anymore. So
that guy is not.
Bro, he had Gideon. Gideon celebrating Hanukkah. He had a menorah. It's like, I don't mean to make fun of him, but it's silly to me that you're a Christian celebrating Jewish holidays. That makes no sense, man. Like, that's very simple stuff.
Yeah. That's it's called Judaizing, and it's also another heresy that, unfortunately, Christians sometimes fall into. It's a very ancient heresy, and it's something the church clarified pretty much immediately, because you can understand, seeing that Christians came out of Judaism in a sense, right? Jesus was a Jew. The initial Christians were Jewish people. You can see how it would be an easy stumbling block for some of them to want to hold on to their Jewish beliefs. And try to kind of import that into Christianity. And so that's one of the earliest heresies we see in Christian history being debunked. And, the Bible also does a very, very good job at clarifying that as well. But that's just the thing with heresy and the Bible. You can twist the Bible to make it say almost anything. And so, bro, that's not a legit Muslim debater. You can't find a single.
So we'll do the one we called out. We'll do the other one. We'll do it one at a time, though. We'll do it one at a time.
Just one. Just. I mean, you don't got to do all of them. I'm just saying, let's get one going.
I mean, from my point of view, you guys are never going to be satisfied.
Y'all waxed everybody, and all that's left now.
I'm not making it seem like that, but it's like you guys, from my point of view, and I think this is justified perspective. There's always someone else. There's always this guy. You know. We'll do one at a time, and inshallah, it's going to be beneficial.
From my opinion, you're still yet to do the first one. So it's kind of like the Jake Paul boxing thing. You know, Jake Paul, as far as he's concerned, he's boxed a bunch of guys, but the entire world knows that he hasn't boxed a legit boxer once.
Okay.
In fact, I mean, I guess some people might say Tommy Fury's a legit boxer, but he won. So.
Sure. So, yeah. We'll do it all. We'll do it. Yeah. Okay. Do you have another question?
Yeah. All right. So I was watching a recent interview you did with this other guy, and you say that you ultimately want to get to making movies. Like, that's your end goal. You want to create films. Mm-hmm. Is there anything in particular that do you just want to be like a Quentin Tarantino and just make fictional, just entertaining movies, or do you want to cover specific things?
I want to make a movie that reflects pop culture. I think my first movie is going to be, it's going to cover pop culture the same way Taxi Driver did in 1973. You know, it captured a mood and a feeling of a time that people weren't really able to describe, and it was captured with all the benefits that film has. With cinematography, lighting, music, it captured like a specific time in New York City and a certain bubbly feeling, post-Vietnam War, this lonely guy. It captured the ideas of loneliness, of seeking masculinity in the industrial age, all this stuff. I want to capture a mood that people can't quite put their finger on, but they all know.
Okay. Well, yeah, man, I'll be waiting to see that come to fruition. That sounds very interesting.
Yeah. But there's a lot more to do here first with the streaming. You know, I'm on a good run right now, and I don't want to stop.
Yeah, it just goes to show how extreme this like tribalism cult mind has gotten. In a way, it's kind of like what Moist Critical was saying about, you know, children being mutilated and pretending they're the opposite sex and all that. It's because they know that they're safe pandering to a certain crowd, they abandon all morality, they abandon all like nuance, and they feel comfortable just going to the most extreme position in that camp because they know they'll never lose their supporters so long as they don't give any, they don't shoot any bail to the other side. You know what I'm saying? And so in a way, those two things are similar. But that was crazy how Trump got shot. You know, at first I thought it was fake. I'll be real with you. Like when it first happened, I'm talking like for like 5 minutes, I thought it was fake. Mm-hmm. Because when it first happened, I was like, this is insane. Like, what are the chances? But then I saw the pictures, like I saw his hair, I saw the blood on the bleachers, all that. And I was like, that's insane, bro. Like the statistical chances of something like that happening. When you first saw it, did you automatically think it was real, or did you not think it was like, dude, this is out of a bad movie?
I thought it was real the whole time. And some people say that I have a conspiracy brain and I think everything's fake, but the whole time I believed it. I went live the whole time. I went live for like 8 hours when it happened and covered all of it.
Yeah, nah, dude, it sounded unreal. His ear, it missed by an inch. Like, what are the chances? You know,
divine intervention. It had to be God. Also, to bring up Destiny earlier, this dude supports genocide. He's a complete Zionist. He's a shill for power, whatever power structure there is. He literally went to Israel like last month. This guy is just sucking off Zionists to get more money. It's embarrassing. Anybody who supports Israel is not a friend of mine. They're an enemy. That's the way I see it. There's no dancing around it. Myron and I disagree upon that. I understand his point of view. He's like, I'm a free speech absolutist. I will still have these people to be able to discuss. It's to the point when what's happening is so abhorrent that I can't see these people as like acquaintances. If you support Israel, you're an enemy.
Yeah, I'm super uneducated about the dispute going on between Israel and Palestine. I read a short book that tried to explain the beef. My initial reaction when Hamas bombed Israel, or when they came and attacked people, they killed women, they killed children, and all of that. My initial reaction was, that's messed up. You'd agree, right? Like before. Wait, the thing that popped it all off, that initial incident, you'd agree that innocent women and children being killed.
Are you talking about October 7th?
I guess. Like,
yeah,
I'm not that invested in this like time, this part of the 2024 storyline. Like I'm not educated to talk on it like that. I don't know dates.
That wasn't the inciting incident. See, that's the narrative that Israel wants so that they can justify the genocide that they are still committing to this day. October 7th, almost a year ago. It's crazy how much time has passed. That's not the inciting incident. This genocide has been going on for a long time. It started in 1948. It's been happening.
No, I agree with you. After I read that book, giving like a brief overview, I see that this is a very complex thing that's been happening for a long time. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying from at that point when the incident happened, I had not yet read that information. And so as far as I'm concerned, this just is like a random thing that's just hitting the news. And you could see how a person's initial reaction to that would be, oh, that's messed up. All right, like innocent women and children are being slaughtered.
Yeah, well, it's like the Native Americans shooting arrows back at the colonizers coming to America. Like, it's not, they painted a specific narrative, and I actually believe that Israel allowed October 7th to happen because they just wanted to take Gaza. They want to completely get rid of Palestine. And so they need an inciting incident. They need that for the story. The same reason that I believe 9/11 was set up by Israel to justify America going into Iraq and Iran. The same Vietnam, the Gulf of Tonkin resolution. You could look at World War II, Pearl Harbor. You need to start war by deception. You need to have some sort of inciting incident where, look at this. Innocent people are dying. But if you really look what happened, they took some hostages. They offered to release them. Israel said no publicly. And I think they allowed October 7th to happen because they just wanted to do exactly what they're doing to this day.
Yeah, and like I think that's a very legitimate argument to make. I think it's very plausible. Right. Again, me not being behind the scenes, I don't know, but I've heard what people said about Israel's Iron Dome being pretty much impenetrable. Like there's no way that they didn't see this coming. And so
same thing with 9/11, like how we have the best defense security in the world and we're not going to see that two planes got box cutters, all this stuff. None of it makes any sense. And so it must have been allowed, or they probably knew about something. Same thing with Trump getting shot. Like, it's so implausible that the former president, like some random dude on Discord, he's actually like a Destiny fan. He's like jerking off to porn and he's 21 years old. Liberal guy who hates Trump. He gets on a roof and the Secret Service doesn't see him. Like there must have been somebody on the inside that was tipped off or allowed this to happen because they wanted to control.
Yeah, no, like I said, like I think it's very possible. But yeah, I guess where I wanted to go with this conversation is, man, something feels like when I look on Twitter, bro, the amount of just anti-Palestine, anti-Israel conversation that's going on, it does feel like, this is what the people who control these avenues of conversation, this is what they want. They want people to just build up hatred in their hearts, even to the point where we can't just as humans empathize with the innocents that are being slaughtered on both sides. You know what I mean? It's like a point where people who are pro-Israel don't want to acknowledge the atrocities that are happening to the people in Gaza, and the people who are pro-Palestine don't want to acknowledge the atrocities that are happening to just regular men and women who have nothing to do with the decisions being made at the government level in Israel. It's just turned us all into either anti-Israel people or anti-Palestine people. And I don't know, man. It's something about it just seems super demonic.
I mean, what's demonic is what they're spreading, right? We have this in common. This is why I believe in having some sort of unifying community, which is the love speech community, is Christians and Muslims who know that Zionism is where most of this demonic entities originate from, right? Zionists did a good job of spreading this idea called Judeo-Christian values in America. What is Judeo-Christian values? Christians believe Jews killed Jesus. So how could you have a shared value if you believe that Jews killed your God? How are you going to hold hands together and unite when you have completely different ideologies? They literally conflict each other. Islam and Christianity actually there's a lot in common. Of course, we both believe in that Jesus was a messenger sent by God. We both believe Jesus was born of the Virgin Mary. Jews believe that Mary was I think they believe Mary was a prostitute. Right? They disrespect a lot of these people. There's more in common with Islam and Christianity than Judaism and Christianity, and they did this to subvert the West.
I don't agree with that term Judeo-Christian value. America was founded on Christian values.
Exactly. I agree with that completely. But every conservative politician gets on stage and not even that, they get on stage like Judeo-Christian values. What is that? Like, what is that exactly? And you see that all these politicians are funded by Israel. All of them have undying allegiance to Israel. They say Israel's our greatest ally. Why? What do we get as Americans? Like, I want to ask you, like, what do we get from Israel?
Yeah, again, like I'm not very informed on when it comes to Israel and all that.
Well, the answer is nothing. Like, we don't get anything from Israel. Like, all we do.
Oh, you mean what we get from? Again, even
as Americans,
I wouldn't even be able to say.
But you should know that. Like, you should know that as an American voter, you're raising a family, and
as far as I can tell, I'm not seeing it. As far as what I can tell, I'm not seeing what we're getting from that. You know, it appears that America is just giving aid to Israel, and there's I don't know what the equal exchange is, or if there's any exchange.
There's no trade. There's no benefit. There's nothing. All we do is we have military bases surrounding Iran. We're always involved in the Middle East in order to defend Israel, and we get nothing in return. We give them billions of dollars. All our politicians are owned by them, and they've compromised so many people in government and the media, and we get nothing in return. So,
I mean, to be fair, though, that's the relationship America has with a lot of countries, though. There are many war-torn countries that we just pour money into that, at least on paper, you know, for the average American citizen to observe, we're not seeing what we're getting in return. So, yeah, but I don't think Israel's unique where that's concerned.
They are yes, America does too much world policing, but the biggest lobbies in America are owned by Israel. AIPAC is the biggest lobby. They have the most amount of money, and they brag on their website about how 98% of the politicians that they fund win their elections. They are the most powerful lobby in America. That's a fact. Not only that, they control. I mean, we can go into details about like who controls the banks and the media, but all this. But it's overwhelmingly dominated by Zionists in America. You could see that in all forms of control, in the banks, in the media, in government, in Hollywood. Not even just the news, in Hollywood and the movies, it's overwhelmingly dominated by Zionists. And they don't have allegiance to America, they have allegiance to Israel. That's what they put first. Ben Shapiro, for example, he's the example of a Christian, not a Christian, but a conservative commentator. And he's always talking, he's apparently an American. He has allegiance to Israel. He has dual allegiance, right? Because Zionists, they don't put America first, which is what Trump was saying in the beginning, like, let's put America first. They want to put Israel first and America second. They're going to put Israel's needs before they put America's needs. So none of these people should have any sort of influence or power in America. As far as I'm concerned, these people are traitors. They're committing treason. Get out. Like, if you want to put Israel first, if you have birthright, because they have the ability to go back to Israel whenever they want. Like, these Zionists, they can, if they commit a crime, like if they commit pedophilic acts or something, they could commit a crime and, you know, they're a felon, they have birthright. They can just go to Israel and then stay there. That's completely messed up. So that means that they can do whatever crimes they want across the world. And then as soon as they get caught, go to Israel and then hide. And you can see there's all these pedophiles, for example, that once they get caught, they just go hide in Israel because Israel's not going to convict them.
Yeah, man, that's some interesting stuff. Like, I would have to read up more about all of that. But one thing you said that I do agree with 100% is that here in America, America should be priority number one for its citizens. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to look after your own household before you can look after anybody else. And so, yeah, you know, I'm not a pro-Israel person. Like, I'm a pro-Jesus person. That's my allegiance. You know what I mean? I'm a pro-Jesus person, and I'm a pro-American person.
Let's go.
And I'm a pro-Jamaica person because I came from Jamaica. I want to see America do well. I want to see Jamaica do well. I want people to turn to Christ. And so, yeah, I guess that's a part of the reason I haven't become so very invested. Also, it's hard for me to invest myself into something where there's clearly a lot of manipulation of the narrative on both sides, I think. You know, there are a lot of people invested in this conflict. There are a lot of people who want people to believe a certain thing a certain way. There are several psyops going, I think. And so it just seems so radioactive to me. All I can do is kind of look from a distance and grieve for the people who are hurting as a result of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I mean, it's pretty easy. I mean, as a Christian, I don't think it's hard to find like who you're going to side with in this conflict, right? Even the Palestinians are 90% Muslim. There's 10% Christians being genocided right now. There's a lot of Christians in Palestine. Israel is pretty much all Jews. It's pretty much all Jewish people. And if you look at what they believe in, they disrespect Jesus. They spit on him. They spit on Christians in Israel. You know that? Like, Christians will try to go to church, and you could see Israelis literally spitting on them. They killed, I mean, you believe, I don't believe that. I believe the body was swapped. But you believe that Jews killed Jesus, correct?
Oh yeah, that's what the Bible teaches clearly.
So how could we if that's their religion, like they killed their God?
But I mean, these Jews didn't kill Jesus. You know, the Jews from 2,000 years ago did. And here's the thing: I don't need to like look.
But they reject him as the Messiah. I understand that the ones today didn't do it. They reject him as.
I'll give you an example, though. Right? You were on a stream with Muhammad Hijab, or I'm not sure his name.
Yeah, Muhammad
but
Hijab.
He said it's better to be a sodomite Muslim than a Christian. Like, that to me is just as good as a spit in the face of Christianity, as far as I'm concerned.
I understand where you're coming from, but what he's describing is that shirk is the greatest sin in Islam, which is disbelief. Anybody who associate partners with God, that's the biggest sin. What's the biggest sin in Christianity?
Still, it sounds crazy to me.
It does sound.
I would rather hang out with a Muslim any day than, you know, someone participating in that kind of sexual perversion. So to hear a Muslim say that they think it'd be better for you to be sleeping with men but be Muslim than to be a Christian, it kind of feels two-faced. That's all I'm saying. Because in some instances, I hear a lot of like people in Islam trying to preach unity between Christianity and Islam, and then I hear guys like that trying to say wild stuff like that, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that personally, but what he's saying is true Islamically. Like, shirk is the greatest sin, right? So that sin supersedes the rest of sin, and I think Christians believe the same thing. Like, right? What's the greatest sin in Christianity?
I suppose it would have to be to break the first commandment, right?
Which is what?
You know, have no other gods before me.
Exactly. So by that logic, you know, believing in multiple gods or believing in, you know, disbelieving in Christianity, that is worse than being a sodomite. By that logic.
No, because hearing Christianity, like, for instance, you can't be a gay Christian. You know what I'm saying? Now, you might be someone who has to battle with homosexual desires, but he kind of made it sound like you can still be a Muslim and be gay. In Christianity, it's an all or nothing, all in, all out kind of thing. And
is that true? Doesn't Jesus save? What's
that?
Doesn't Jesus save? Like, the fact is, like, everybody sins, right? Being gay is a sin.
No, but you can repent. No, being gay is like being in adultery or being in fornication. It's an ongoing. We're talking about someone who is actively participating in that lifestyle. We're not talking about someone who may have, you know, perverted desires, or maybe you fell into temptation and then asked for forgiveness. We're talking about someone who's living that lifestyle. You know, the kind of people that hate you and me on Twitter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
These you can't be that and Christian at the same time. So
unless you repent, you could be a repenting faggot. Like that's as long as that happens. And I understand what you're saying. For example, I'd rather live in a neighborhood of Christians than a neighborhood of fags. There's like no doubt in my mind. That's not even a question. I was even speaking to my friend Warner Muslim Lancer earlier about this. Like, would you rather your son? I asked him, would you rather your son be gay or be Christian, or be a gay Muslim or a Christian? And like, if you follow Islamic logic, they have to say gay Muslim. Me, like, I'm not gonna lie, and this is not even Islamically accurate, and maybe I need to improve. I would any day. It's not even. I would be lying if I said I would rather have a gay Muslim son than a Christian son. I would take the Christian son any day. Like, that's not perfect, right? I have to work on that, you know. But it's just, I would be a liar.
I don't know if you do, man. Some might say that's just common sense right there, but you know.
Well, that's if you follow the logic, that's the greatest sin is disbelief. And that's and you believe the same thing.
Disobedience in Christianity, disobedience is synonymous with disbelief. So you can't be a disobedient Christian. You can make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone sins. Everyone falls short of the glory. But those mistakes grieve you. You have sorrow over them. You feel guilty about them. You confess them. You ask for forgiveness, and you make a sincere effort not to make the same mistake again. But you know, you can't just be living in that life and claiming that you're a Christian, and actually you're in the ancient Christians taught very clearly where this
that disobedience and disbelief are the same thing.
They're synonymous, right? You know, in the Bible it says to love God is to obey God. You know what I mean? It's you can't. Which would mean then to hate God is to disobey him. You know what I'm saying? That's is a clear line of logic. And so, yeah, you can't be willfully rebellious while still considering yourself.
Well, not okay, but when someone says a gay Muslim, that means like a Muslim who professes La ilaha illallah, that there's one God. I bear witness that there's only one God and Muhammad was his prophet. Saying that and then like committing acts that are sinful and repenting, even regardless of gay or anything. If say you drink alcohol and you repent and then you feel, you know, you show repentance, you do it. You could be an alcoholic Muslim. That's still better than being a Christian by Islamic logic.
Yeah, like you can't be an alcoholic Christian. You know what I'm saying?
I think most Christians would disagree with you.
Not the early church and not the Bible. The Bible says no drunkard shall inherit the kingdom of God.
But you also believe that Jesus saves and Jesus died for your sins. So like if you sin and then repent, like what's the issue?
No, but here's the thing. If you repent, you're not an alcoholic.
But yeah, then you stop drinking, then you drink again.
An alcoholic is somebody who is ongoingly getting drunk, right? You haven't repented if you get drunk today and then you say, "Dear Lord, I'm sorry." Then you get drunk tomorrow. Then you say, "Dear Lord, I'm sorry." Then again, you haven't repented.
But alcoholics still believe that they're like being an alcoholic. They still say like, "Oh, I'm 20 years sober. I'm an alcoholic." They still go to Alcoholics Anonymous and say that. Like it's something that they don't really ever get rid of. It's something that's why they keep the chips. Even if they're not actively drinking, they're still alcoholics. Same reason you can be.
That's AA culture though. That's not Christianity.
Yeah, but like a dude who's a faggot, like he can repent and still like have faggot feelings and he doesn't act on it. Right, but he repents and he regrets it, but still mentally he's a faggot, you know? That could be the same logic.
Well, personally, I don't believe that someone who maybe has that kind of a perverse feeling, you know, towards the same sex is permanently bound to have those feelings. I believe that those feelings can be overcome by the power of God.
But say that person died before he fully overcame it, right? But he still believed in the Shahada. He still believed that La ilaha illallah, there's one God. Mm-hmm. By that logic, like he has a better chance of going into heaven than a Christian, than a disbeliever. That's Islamic logic.
No, yeah. No, I understand.
And I think the same logic applies to Christianity. And so I understand why people thought that was inflammatory. And I personally don't say stuff like that because, you know, my opinion is like I'm not going to be the one judging on Judgment Day. So why would I place judgment on others? But what I can see is what we choose in this life. And the biggest problems that we face in this life, I think all the problems stem back to Israel. I think every single problem stems back to Zionism. Like everything in terms of lust, in terms of porn. Do you know a rabbi owns Pornhub?
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's we can go on all. You should. the Talmud says some very like their values do not align at all. Like Christian and Muslim values are so similar. Or so similar.
Well, that wouldn't be surprising if that's true. I don't know if it is. I haven't verified it for myself. But if it's true, it wouldn't be surprising because not too long ago, I heard there was like a panel of people talking. I think Jordan Peterson was on that panel. And there was some kind of a Jewish, he was, I think he's like a famous person who happens to also be Jewish. I don't know if he's a theologian or anything. But he was saying that there was nothing wrong with watching porn. You know what
Jordan
I'm saying?
Peterson said that?
Yeah, he was saying something along the lines of it's not adultery because you're not actually physically engaging in sex, and that's something Jesus clarified. Jesus said if you even look at a woman to lust after her, you've already committed adultery, which would qualify.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson pretends to be a Christian for views while he works for Ben Shapiro, who's one of the biggest Zionists in the country. He's owned by Daily Wire. Daily Wire is owned by Ben Shapiro, who wears a yarmulke and he has allegiance to Israel. He says Israel first. He says that he pushes Judeo-Christian values, right? He's owned by him. So this is why Jordan Peterson is a Zionist too. This is why he always talks positively about Israel.
What is a Zionist?
Zionist.
I'm not even sure I have the same definition.
Yeah, Zionist is somebody that shows allegiance to Israel, that believes that there should be an ethno-state and that it's Israel, that a Jewish ethno-state of Israel.
A Jewish ethno-state of Israel. Yeah. So basically you're saying a Zionist is someone who believes that only bloodline Jews should live in the region of Israel?
It's a political movement. It's you could consider it like similar. I'll read the I don't want to butcher it. It's a Jewish nationalist movement that has goal and creation to support of Jewish national state in Palestine. Palestine, aka now called Israel. So yeah, it's a political movement that says that the Jews need an ethno-state of Israel.
Interesting. Okay. Well, yeah. I don't know what else to say on that. It's some very crazy stuff happening in this world, bro.
Yeah, and the more you look down the rabbit hole, you see you see how it all goes back to the same place every time.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of more of a control what you can control kind of thing. I can't be bothered to be worried about things outside of my control. And whatever, some guy's doing in some dark room, whatever, I can't control that. I can just control how I live and the people I surround myself with and who, what I teach my children. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
I mean, I would consider these people, these Zionists, like enemies of your beliefs. I think it's like if they believe they completely they reject Jesus as the Messiah. They don't think they believe in their own Messiah. So that's what we agree upon. This is what I like the unity of. We both believe that Jesus will return to defeat the Antichrist. Like that we agree upon that. They believe their Messiah is different. See, the Jews initially rejected Jesus. They saw Jesus and he approached them with poor clothes. Jesus never was flashy. And the Jews believe, okay, well, the prophet needs to be flashy. He needs to have gold. He needs to have a throne, all this. And so they rejected him and they cast him away. That's why I don't even consider Jesus to be a Jew because he never like faith-wise, he wasn't. He was rejected by the...
No, he was. He was a perfect follower of the Torah until death.
Yeah, until they rejected him. And then...
No, until death. Up until death, because his death marked the beginning of the new covenant. So wait, he truly was.
He followed the Torah, but don't you need to have a bar mitzvah?
A bar mitzvah? Well, that's not mentioned in the Torah. So I don't know if that's a requirement of God. I think that might actually be more of a cultural Jewish tradition that developed over time. But I've read the entire Old Testament. I see no mention of a bar mitzvah.
But his beliefs didn't align with it. That doesn't make sense because Jews don't believe in heaven and hell. They don't believe in that. Like they don't have the concept.
No, they believe in the resurrection. They believe in the not the resurrection of Jesus, but the resurrection of the dead. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do. Yeah, that's why the resurrection of Jesus is so important, by the way. Mm-hmm. Why it's not like, when you say, we believe Jesus is the Messiah just like you. yes, Jesus being the chosen one of God, because the word Messiah just means anointed, the chosen. Jesus being the chosen one of God, Paul said it like this. He said, if the resurrection didn't happen, then it's all for nothing. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what Christianity teaches us to look forward to, is the resurrection of the dead, right? Christianity teaches that when we die, our soul goes down into Hades and we await our resurrection into perfect bodies like the body that Jesus was resurrected into, in which we will experience immortality, right? So this idea of you dying and going to heaven, this is not the traditional view. This is more of a more modern Christian kind of view.
But if he was a perfect practicer of the Torah, then it doesn't seem like did he practice the Sabbath on Saturday?
Yeah, 100%.
Did he? What else did he spin the dreidel?
The dreidel?
He didn't wear a yarmulke.
No, I don't see any of that in the Torah, bro.
Where do they get all this stuff?
These are traditions that have developed culturally over time. It doesn't mean that they're necessarily bad or wrong or wicked or anything like that, but it's just not in the Torah. So for Jesus to be considered a perfect Jew in his keeping of the law, he needs to keep the law as it was articulated. And the law doesn't talk about, these are the first 5 books of the Bible. It doesn't talk anything about dreidels or yarmulkes or anything like that. You know, they were taught that they are supposed to wear tassels on the 4 corners of their garments. They weren't supposed to eat certain foods. They had to observe the Sabbath. They had to be circumcised on the 8th day, and et cetera, things like that. And Jesus did all of those.
Mm-hmm. There's someone in the community, there's a Unitarian Christian that's saying he wants to talk to you. Do you want to do that another time?
Yeah, we can do it another time.
He's a good guy. But yeah,
sure.
He's in the chat spamming it. Yeah, I'm getting tired, man. I wanna. Do you have any more? Was that all your questions?
I kind of wanted to talk about. I saw in that interview you did with that one dude. He's like a really popular Twitch streamer. Apparently, he's a gamer. Plays Rainbow Siege or something like that.
Oh, Jinxie.
He did 5 months ago. What's his name?
Jinxie.
Yeah, that guy. You had said some stuff about depression, and I used to have that stance, but I've recently changed that stance on depression, and I kind of wanted to go into that with you a little bit. Did you want to talk about that? And
yeah. What do you agree and disagree with on that one? It's been a while since I talked about depression.
So I used to, kind of be of that, do push-ups, feel better, suck it up, push it down, like get focused on something, be too busy to be depressed kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And me personally, I've never suffered with like depression or anxiety or anything like that personally. I mean, I think we've all been sad before, right? And we've all been anxious before.
Yeah.
But I would never say that I was ever in a place where like I'm thinking I need to go see a therapist or a doctor or get medicine or anything like that. But, I've been on, have you ever heard of the carnivore diet?
Of course, yeah. Joe Rogan does that.
Yeah. So, like, literally yesterday, I passed 1 month of like strict carnivore. Haven't cheated once, right? And something that science is revealing to us, like the latest science regarding depression, has revealed that depression is usually caused by an inflammation of the brain, right? Depression, anxiety, a lot of mental illnesses are caused by inflammation of the brain. And a lot of the foods that we eat, and I'm not saying like everybody right now needs to go carnivore or anything like that, and I'm not saying that it's something you need to necessarily do for a long period of time or forever or anything like that. But what's interesting is a lot of the foods that we eat, especially the processed foods that we eat, but even some of the plant foods, they cause a lot of inflammation in our body. And that inflammation, it goes all over our body. It causes aches and pains and skin rashes and acne and all these things. And something else that it contributes to is inflammation of the brain. And even though I wasn't a depressed person before or an anxious person before, I've noticed, bro, a significant change in my mental state. Like I haven't had a bad day in a month, and some bad stuff has happened. You know, I've been in annoying situations, things that used to like really bother me and piss me off, or you know, make me upset for longer periods of time. They just like roll right off of me, you know, and I know that's not me doing anything different in any other area of my life. It was bizarre. And so I just wanted to say that because I do think that there is something going on physiologically in the brains of people which lead to depression. And if anyone like ears perked up by what I just said, after this stream, just type in carnivore diet cured my depression.
I mean, what you're saying is true, but like it's not something that you can just catch from the sky. Like you can get depressed if you have a bad diet. If you're playing video games 12 hours a day and you're eating Cheetos and you're smoking cigarettes and coffee and you're just putting Monster, like, and your body's filled with junk, then your brain's going to be slower, you're going to be in a vegetative state, and you're not going to be as active, and your brain's not going to be working properly. It's more common that you're going to feel depressed because your body's not filled with the right nutrients.
Yeah, but yeah, I just wanted to say though, I think a lot of people, because I used to have this position, and it still seems like you still lean that way somewhat, maybe not as far as I thought you did, but there are a lot of people that treat depression as if it's a choice. You know what I'm saying? Like people are choosing, and I guess in a way it is, like if it's changing your diet, changing your lifestyle, sure, but you know, it's not just, oh, you're soft. Oh, you're a weak individual. I would definitely say.
I see what you're saying. And I would say at this point, since then, that this is the better way to talk about it publicly. Like I would never tell my friends, or not never, but I would ultimately not try to share weakness and try to share sadness and put that onto the world. I'll say something that happened said before. Recently I had a death in the family. And as soon as it happened, like I just streamed for 8 hours straight. I didn't think about it at all. I never mentioned it. And then the stream ended, and then I went into the prayer position, put my head to the floor, and I started crying. And then once it was over, I prayed. And in Islam, we believe to cry to Allah. Like those feelings of when you're in despair, when you have really extreme feelings like that, it's better to share it with Allah than with other people. Because other people are not going to understand. Other people are not going to get it, and you're going to be sharing. They're not going to give you the answers that you need. All the answers are from Allah. All the answers are in the Quran. So I put my head to the floor, then I got over it and went back. I went to the gym and got back with my life. And then since then, you know, it's just, that's the best way to deal with it. That's the best way to, in my experience, because I've dealt with it other ways. Like back in the day, I would probably cope with something like that with alcohol, with drinking. I'd probably talk to my friends about it, talk to a girl about it. I didn't tell anybody. It was crazy that I was able to do so many streams and never mention it and kind of just push it to the back of my head. And then when it was time for prayer, I was able to access that again and then relinquish it there. The feelings need to go somewhere. Even as men, like we say that we don't have feelings, we do. It's better to put those feelings into the gym, into your work, and to God rather than anywhere else. And you have to channel it in the right places. That's what I mean by depression is not real. If you believe you're depressed, you're going to channel it into negative things because you're going to make excuses for why you're being in a vegetative state. Oh, I'm depressed, so I'm going to start taking medication. I'm depressed, so I'm going to smoke weed. I'm depressed, so I can't work today. I need a mental health day. I can't get this done because I am depressed. You've diagnosed yourself and you've chosen to be in this non-solution place when you should find a solution. The best solution, the only solution is God, work, prayer, and gym.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. And diet. Yeah, definitely. You know,
well, your diet should always be right. Like, regardless, even in Islam, we don't even believe in eating haram. Sorry for interrupting you, but
you're fine.
Yeah, we believe in eating halal meat, which means that the beef needs to be raised the right way. They can't be mistreated. They can't be raised in a farm or in a factory or whatever, and they have to be killed the right way because you could even get adrenochrome in the food. Because a lot of the meat they eat from McDonald's for whatever, they electrocute the beef. And then their last second alive is them in this terrified state. And so what happens in the blood is that there's all this adrenaline in the blood. They call it adrenochrome. Meat that's halal, they're killed. Like you just you say Bismillah, and you slice their neck and they bleed out, which is a much more, I wouldn't say humane, but a much more natural way to die rather than being electrocuted.
I would say, though, that's probably a longer death than being electrocuted, though, don't you think?
Yeah, but electrocuted puts you in a shock state. You know, that doesn't happen when you slice it.
Puts them in a shock state.
No, I don't.
They just got their throat slit.
I think they're just bleeding out slowly. They're just bleeding. Shock is like it's just.
You don't think that they feel that though? That I would think that if someone cut my throat open, I'd feel that. And then I'd watch my blood leak out for like the next 20 seconds.
But you're not going to go into shock. You're just going to be like, oh, you're dying. Oh, I'm dead.
I'm pretty sure I'd be very shocked, bro.
Okay, well, it's also the way they're raised and stuff like that.
Like, my blood is like, I'm choking on my blood. It's like just leaking out on the floor. It might take, it's probably faster than 20 seconds, but I still think
but the adrenaline's different than that electrocution. That's unnatural.
I don't know, bro. I don't know about that one. I think the most humane way to kill an animal is to shoot it in the head.
What?
That's instant. They don't even know. 1 minute, they're just eating some grass. The next second, it's just like the windows, like sound, boot up sound. It's over.
Yeah, I shot in the head. I mean, the guns weren't around when our books were written.
Yeah. That a lot of you ever watched No Country for Old Men?
Of course I have. That's a great. Love that movie. That's probably what your life was like when you left the internet. You know.
No, not quite. No, yeah. Not quite. But yeah, you know how that's what they use now. A lot of times to kill the animals is they use the compressed air.
That thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's a good.
That's
movie.
Actually what that was. It was like a cattle, like I don't know the exact name, but that thing he was going around killing people with, shooting out door handles with, and all that. That was used for killing animals instantly.
Mm-hmm. It's funny that you brought up that movie because, well, first, what do you think that movie's about?
What? No Country for Old Men?
Yeah.
Man, greed, evil. Those are the first two things that come to mind. Just how much pure evil exists in the world and how far people will go for money. Both sides, both the guy who stole the money and the guy who was pursuing him for it.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest takeaway from that movie. I think it goes to the title is the difference between traditionalism and modernism, right? So you get No Country for Old Men, like the old guys, like the old cop, seeing all the craziness, like young men are greedy. This guy's chasing the money around. They see like these new tools of shooting and all this stuff. It's like it's a new world in a world that's really traditional, right? Old Texas with the cowboy hat, and he's got the gun, he's slanging, he's drinking milk, and it's just like, this is what we're used to, and this is the world that we're adapting to, and everything is different. And this is not a place where traditional values can exist anymore. This is a place full of evil and greed and craziness, and you randomly walk through the desert and you see a big shootout and everything. And then at the end of the movie, he realizes that like everything is unpredictable. Like in the last line of the movie, he's talking about a dream that he had. And in the dream, he goes to the fireplace and he's sitting down with his father. And basically his father repeats the same thing. His father's like, it talks about the unknown and about how we're never really going to know the solutions. Like even though men can act like we have the answers to things, we still can exist in a world that's unpredictable. Like and at the end of the movie where the villain is driving in the car after he committed a murder. He killed the guy's wife. And he's driving and randomly a car crash happens out of nowhere. And the kids are there and he's tying the shirt but he survives it. Like out of nowhere, this guy's one of the most villainous people of all time and he gets in a car crash out of nowhere. You never know what's going to happen. Life is unpredictable. But you only could find refuge in that in this world of craziness and what is traditional and what we already know. And I think that's how I found Islam is this is something that has not changed. It's not something that's been adapted in this world of craziness and greed and evil. Islam has stayed stagnant and it's stayed strong and it's stayed exactly the way it is. So although life is unpredictable, we have free will. At least I have this that I could fall back on, that I can find solace in.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy for you, bro. You know, even though
I'm happy for you
Christian,
too.
Yeah, even though I'm a Christian and you know, that's ultimately the camp I plant my flag in. I just see you as a guy that's also on this life journey. And you're taking it by the horns and you're trying to make the most of it, and you're trying to, you know, make the right decisions with the information you have. Like me, like like a lot of guys, I would presume. And, you know, you have tough skin and perseverance, and those are all amazing qualities, bro. And and also the fact that you've turned away from things like frivolous, casual sex and all that, you know, drugs and alcohol and all that. That's an amazing thing. And so I pray that God gives you long life and you continue to move, you know, to grow in godliness and all that.
I mean, I appreciate that. I'm glad you're back too, man. Young Don's back finally. It's been a long time. I've been trying to, you know, I don't think they understand. We've been you know, keeping good contact for a while, and I'm glad to see this era of Young Don. I look forward to seeing your content and everything, and may God keep you steadfast and keep you and your family safe.
Thank you, bro. All right, bro. Well, God bless. Thanks for having me, man.
Talk soon, man. Have a good one.
Subscribe. If you don't subscribe this channel, you will miss a lot of fun content, bro. Hey, subscribe, bro. What? Where is my pen? Okay, goodbye. Nice to meet you.